If you want the truth to stand clear before you, never be for or against. The struggle between for and against is the mind's worst disease. You see, when we begin to side ourselves with one thing or another, we often tend to shut ourselves off from different opinion. That's sort of just the fact of human nature. We lean towards one thing and suddenly the other opinions, the other sides, they seem almost alien to us. Is that how the mind is supposed to function? Maybe it is. I'm not sure. I'm no psychological expert here, but it can be minimized. We can prevent ourselves from falling into this prison trap. Ultimately, the mind becomes a prison due to our own ideals, due to our own beliefs, due to our own so-called facts, which are more or less just truths and beliefs that we have basically conditioned and built up so high to the point where we can't even seem to see the bottom of it, to where we can't really seem to go down the dark abyss of our own ideas and own beliefs so that we can truly dissect them into whether or not it's actual, if there's actual merit to it. Over the course of your life, you have built up your beliefs, and it could have gone either way. You could have gone in a completely different direction. You could have had a completely different set of beliefs. What you believe right now was instilled in you through experience, through your childhood, through your teenage years, and now, well, wherever you stand now, it was instilled through you. You were conditioned to believe everything that you believe, whether it was of your own volition or of the volition of the environment that surrounded you. So here you stand now, with many sides to different perspectives, and with some cases you might be a bit more abstract and more explorative in your thought and in your opinion, but in some cases you hold very hardcore truths or beliefs. You won't budge, and if you hear a counter argument, you will declare psychological warfare on whoever or whatever spouts it. How does this happen? Well, like I said before, experience through childhood, experience through what you engaged with from the time that you came out the womb to where you are now. It has conditioned you to believe in whatever you believe in now. And I believe most people like to believe that they're very open-minded. We wouldn't be living in the society that we live in today if most people were open-minded. Let's be real. And so we bind ourselves into these teams. We find people that agree with us. We find people whose beliefs we share, and we create these factions. And then the emotion is sort of tied into it. Now, whether or not that was a long or a short process, well, it doesn't really matter too much. Once you're with that team, it becomes that much more emotionally charged. And so the less time you spend researching the contrary, the less time you spend researching opposing views and looking into them and becoming more open-minded, the more sort of dogmatic you are, the more, I wouldn't say extreme, but the more principled you are in that fashion. And so with that, you suddenly close yourself off to this whole portion, this whole sort of area of exploration that you could have gone down, and perhaps there might have been a lot of merit there, but you've chosen your side, and so it's going to be very hard to convince you otherwise, unless that imagination is triggered, unless that sort of fantasy or that possibility of new or better beginnings is expressed. It's going to be very hard to break into that prison and get your ass out of it. So there's that. But I think there's benefits to having such strong principles. Ultimately, you don't want to be so ever-changing and so exploratory to the point where you run into this sort of paralysis. When you allow in too much ideas or too many ideas, when you allow in too much information, too many beliefs, you become stunned. Suddenly you don't know where to go. Suddenly you have no direction. If you know not which port to sail, then no wind is favorable. I probably butchered that line, but Seneca brought up a very good point when he says that, and I will get into that in a future video. Man, as much as I want to ramble on that, I'm not going to. I'm going to force myself not to. Well, we need to distinct fact and truth. What's the difference? Well, fact is objective. It's proven scientifically, and there are no arguments that can prove it otherwise. And then there's truth, things that have been tested, and through that sort of experience, it's, well, come to our belief, it's come to our knowledge that, well, this idea is reasonable. It can be used through life and you can expect to live rather comfortably. It leads you towards different benefits and different, well, elements that help and push forward and ascend your life, essentially. And so, it becomes a truth because, well, you've tested it, you've gone through it, and it's legit. But when does that become a problem? Well, quite frankly, there are way too many truths out there. A lot of them. There are a lot of them. And the same truth doesn't fit different people in the same way. Ultimately, our righteous minds made it possible for human beings, but no other animals, to produce large cooperative groups. But at the same time, our righteous minds guarantee that our cooperative groups will always be cursed by moralistic strife. Because once we dive so deep into a truth or belief, we fail to see other opinions, other perspectives at their truest form, at their biggest form. We believe our beliefs to be so objectively true to the point where it's almost held up as strongly as a fact. And so we get our moralistic strife. But you need to realize that that thing is not fact. It is a truth. And if you would have gone through a different route, if you would have gone down a different path, you would have had a complete different set of beliefs. You need to have the due diligence to explore that different belief or to explore those different truths, to at least get an understanding of how they can provide some value to your life. At least to a degree, to at least understand how they provide value or how they provide insight and clarity to that individual's life. That's very important. But of course, it's easier said than done. And so it's very dangerous to confuse your beliefs with fact, because ultimately you have to experience your truths and your beliefs with other people that you engage with, and they came up in a different way. The whole facts don't care about your feelings thing, well, maybe it's true, maybe it isn't, but feeling definitely cares about fact. And so you need to be able to understand the emotional impact that, well, our emotions have on our beliefs. I was about to say facts, on our beliefs and on our truths. And when we can gauge that, suddenly, well, the world becomes that much easier to understand. And so, how do we open up our mind? Well, the obvious solution is to confront our own ideas, to confront our own opinions. There are certain things that I believed in 2 years ago that I wouldn't believe in today. There are certain things that I believe in today that myself 2 years ago wouldn't even give the time of day, because I would have thought, how foolish would it be to even look into that, or what's even in it for me? But when you give yourself the time to really go to war with your own beliefs and your own truths, you come to realize that a lot of what you believe in is fairly irrational, or if not irrational, definitely due for some conditioning and some change. The fact is, most people don't challenge their beliefs enough. So you need to be that person to question yourself. Why do I believe in this? Why do I see this as so truthful compared to that? And what about that certain element am I not looking into enough to even confirm my own beliefs in the first place? Why do I believe in this thing? How is it assisting me? How is it providing value for my life? And how is it damaging me? What is it preventing me from seeing? And so when we can ask ourselves these questions, and we definitely need to go into the details of it, we definitely need to have those arguments with ourselves. When we can do that, then suddenly a lot of gates open. Suddenly we actually become that abstract thinker, because abstract thinkers are able to look at multiple arguments and create very strong arguments out of those multiple arguments. It's very hard to do that. It takes skill, it takes practice, it takes conditioning. So be that person who does that. Be that person who can have those strong arguments between different beliefs and different truths. Be that person. Creating those two strong arguments will allow for you to see truly the complexity and the nuance of that point. You will come off as far more intelligent than, well, maybe you are. I'm not going to say you're dumb, but you'll definitely come off as smarter, because now you're able to really emulate that other side. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Fairly complicated to make, and I definitely slipped on some ideas, and I'm probably wrong about a couple of things here too, but let me know your thoughts down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share, follow the socials down in the description below. And yeah, this is Ibra signing out. I'll see y'all later, man.